I assume we've all been to a zoo at least once in our lives before, getting to see all the wild animals behind glass and in cages. The purpose of this speech is to persuade you that zoos do more harm than good for the animals. In my last speech, I informed you the two sides of animals being kept in zoos. Therefore, I feel I am qualified to persuade you on this topic because I've been doing research for over a month now. Now let's look at my main points of this topic. First, the animal protection laws are not strong enough to fully protect these animals. Next, that zoos are detrimental to the animal's health, both physically and psychologically. And finally, how zoos restrict the animals on what they can do and who they can socialize with. Now that I've given you an overview, let's talk about how the animal protection laws are not strong enough. These laws don't put into consideration the animal's wide range of their natural habitat. For example, orcas. According to Alexander Laybourne on December 16th, 2022, from the article, Why Are Zoos Bad? And Why Animals Should Not Be Kept in Zoos. He states, orcas are migratory animals with a vast range. Being placed into a small tank away from their family units might not break existing animal protection laws. Also, out of all the zoos, only a small percentage is actually fully regulated under these laws. According to the article, Why Are We Failing in Zoo Animal Welfare? On July 3rd, 2019, states, a small percentage fall under effective protection legislation and guiding principles from a zoo membership association, such as the Zoo and Aquarium Association. However, a significant number of facilities fall outside any ethical oversight from an association and or are not influenced by adequate legislation. This leads us to another downside, that zoos are detrimental to the animal's health, physically and psychologically. Animals held in captivity show psychological signs that they normally wouldn't out in the wild. Many animals held in captivity suffer from anxiety, depression, and many other mental disorders. According to Alex Halberstadt, from the article Zoo Animals and Their Disconnects, on July 3rd, 2014, states, the Toledo Zoo ran a psychiatric program in which a gorilla with premenstrual depression was prescribed Prozac to ease them into their new habitats, an agitated tiger was given Valium, and anxious zebras and wildebeest were given Hadol. Animals kept in zoos don't usually live as long as they normally would in the wild. As in elephants, their lifespan is almost cut in half when held in captivity. According to Ian Sample, from the article, stress and lack of exercise are killing elephants, zoos warned. On December 11th, 2008, states, captive elephants live about half as long as wild elephants. 18.9 years versus 41.7 years for Asian elephants and 16.9 years versus 35.8 years for African elephants. Of 77 elephants in 13 zoos, 71 were overweight and spent 83% of their time indoors, contributing to early death. Elephants are just one of many species that this happens to. The cause of their early death has many different factors contributing to that. And on to my final reason, that zoos restrict what the animals can do and who they interact with. Like I had mentioned before, the cages and sanctuaries that these animals stay in are often enclosed and they don't have much space. They're restricted to this small space and can only walk, run, or swim in circles, day in and day out. This causes a huge mental strain on these animals, and that's what causes a lot of these mental disorders in these animals at zoos. In zoos, there's only a select few of each species. They are forced to interact with only those few, if any. This can cause some mental and emotional damage to the animals, not being able to interact with different species or even any more of their own species. Now that I've given you my top 3 reasons as to why I believe that zoos do more harm than good, let's recap what I've covered. First, I explained how the animal protection laws are not strong enough. Next, on how zoos are detrimental to the animal's health, physically and psychologically. And finally, to how zoos restrict the animals. My purpose of this speech was to persuade you that zoos do more harm than good for the animals. Like I mentioned earlier in my speech, I've been researching on this topic for over a month now. This topic is important because it's easy for us to get caught up in seeing these wild animals and forgetting what really goes on behind the scenes. I hope this speech has persuaded you, or at least given you some more knowledge on how zoos do more harm than good. Thank you.